Hey YouTubers, it's Louis from BlackTokyo.com. II Magazine was nice enough to interview Black Tokyo, or me specifically for Black Tokyo, early last year. The interview was placed in their May, July, and September 2016 issues of the magazine. And if you don't know about II, here's a copy of the May issue. And now I'll share with you what I share with them today. And one of the things that came up was not only what is Black Tokyo, but who am I? Well, I'll introduce you to this new format via YouTube on the Black Tokyo blog, and specifically I'll give you a little bit more information about myself. So what's my background? Well, I'm the only child. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and I guess my interest in Japan was initially peaked when I received my Sony radio that my father gave me. I started high school at a very young age. I was 13 when I started Cass Technical High School, and I graduated at the age of 16. I started Wayne State University a few weeks later. So as a 16-year-old, there really wasn't much for me to do but study. Being in Detroit. So at the age of 17, I dropped out of Wayne State and joined the U.S. Marine Corps. While in the Marine Corps, I finished my education, of course, got my bachelor's degree. I attended the Defense Language Institute, Foreign Language Center for basic and intermediate Korean, studied Japanese after school, and I was able to qualify as a Korean and a Japanese linguist while I was there at DLI. Many years later, I completed my Master's in Security Studies from the Naval Postgraduate School. Why Japan? Well, I was interested in Japan when I was first able to comprehend more things. So I read the novel Shogun, I've seen the movie, and everything, I said, I guess, I didn't see me. So there was that piqued interest. And lo and behold, in further research, I found out about these black samurai, or these black, retainers that were in Japan. Everything that I had known up to that point was that blacks were in Japan as slaves. I didn't know that there were black and Japanese singers, for example. I seen the Buddhists, I had seen the samurai, the ninja, all the stereotypical things about Japan, but none of that still reflected me. I went to Okinawa at the age of 17. So I'm a young Marine here overseas, away from home for the first time. I'm still learning a lot about myself. I had spent 3 tours in Okinawa, and every tour was different. After I left the Marine Corps in '92, I decided to go to Japan. I set up a business. I've been an actor on television. I did that for about 4 years in Tokyo. I was on a #1 Family Time show, and so that was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people, learned a lot of things. Did modeling, here and there also because of television. But I guess the biggest blessing, so to speak, was meeting other blacks in Japan that had similar interests, as my own. But what has changed? Wow. Well, I've seen Japan for the first time, or Okinawa specifically, in 1981. And I didn't understand why there was a dislike of the U.S. forces being in Okinawa, and not so much mainland Japan, because I hadn't been up there initially. But there are still Vietnam veterans still in the ranks. And those veterans that I met, some of them were still searching for, I don't want to call it blackness, but a place to belong. So I'm an impressionable 17 years old. I still wore, an afro. I was in the Air Wing, but I still wore an afro. I'm out with my crew and everything. And of course, we had pride in ourselves, pride in being a Marine. But there was a strong pride of Black power. The relationships that I observed, and even that I had while I was in the Marine Corps, as a civilian, I guess taught me a lot, not only about myself, but a lot about Japanese in general. How the men perceived Japanese women that were with foreigners in general, and specifically, black men. How the women perceived themselves as being with foreigners, and again, specifically women that were interested in black men. How black women perceived black men being with Japanese or other Asian women, and how the spotlight was more on the black male versus the black female. One of the more shocking things while I was stationed in Okinawa, and even when I went to Korea and the Philippines and Thailand, were the number of orphanages. And I remember seeing children that looked much like kids back home in Detroit. And I wondered, were these kids left over here? What was the story behind it? What was the deal? Well, at 17, I really didn't understand. At 18, I still didn't understand. It was only later, as far as learning a little bit more of the language, talking to people, both Americans, Okinawans, and Japanese, Koreans also, and learning more of the story as far as why these kids were here, why they were shunned, why the mothers were shunned, why they couldn't immigrate to America, and things like that. So the kids, I guess, were a big factor in having me take a path and digging for more of the story. Being an only child, I would say that the kids had a major influence as far as where my research would lead. Wow. There were a lot of mixed race children that I ran into. These children and their mothers were shunned and often seen as not pure. In Okinawa and in other parts of Asia, for example, I've seen the adverse outcome for some of these children, particularly children that were born of Black American military men in Okinawan, Japanese, Korean, or Filipino, or Thai women. It was heartbreaking seeing these kids in orphanages, on the streets, some subjected to human trafficking. The children and their mothers were marginalized, seen as societal outcasts, bullied in school, bullied in the street, underemployed, or even not employed at all. But we Marines when I served, we did a lot of work as far as going to the orphanages and building rooms, kitchens, improving roadways, building playgrounds and other facilities, or improving infrastructure that they needed. So much that it made me feel good. I guess it made the children feel good. But was it really put out in the news? Was that part of being the military in Japan getting out to to the Okinawan people, to the Japanese people? For the most part, no. And that has a lot when it comes to changing perception. But when you have an American military base in your backyard, I guess doing that doesn't make much of a change, or much of a dent, I should say, to a lot of people. But again, from the age of 17 and 18, 23, 29, in my 30s, and then on in Okinawa and mainland Japan, things have changed.